Thank you for joining us on the Presents Streaming Network. Well, Anthony, good to see you. I'm Marti Mongiello, and this is Anthony Knopps. Welcome to another special, a network special today, Traded for the Enemy. Kind of shocking, Anthony. We did not have a whole lot of time to really talk about this, but I think if anybody, you were quite surprised to hear about this on the network, and I think the title is really what grabbed you the most, was the American boy that was bombed day and night. Are you ready for this today?
Yeah, I mean, this is a fascinating story. As anybody who's ever studied history knows, it's full of people that have been in places in inopportune times and really made the most of those. And this is such a story because this is an innocent 6-year-old boy, and we can remember when our kids were 6, or we know of friends and family who have kids that age. To put them in this type of environment back then is just incredible. And I know that you've looked at this story quite a bit, and it's just fascinating that this story is there, and we've been able to really dig into this. This was a boy who was going to school just like anybody else, reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. When one day he was taken away, and his family and citizens like him were traded for other Americans in World War II, sent to Nazi Germany, an area that he really didn't know. And he was taken to Hamburg and endured bombings by the Allies, including here in the United States. So, just a fascinating story as to how he got there and how he was able to not just endure, but to thrive and to find his own destiny, which in essence came back here to the States. So, Marti,
Just unbelievable, to think about, and he said, the first indication was really when he started to put 2 and 2 together like a kid, was when they were on the civilian ship. He asked a couple of people, including Daddy, those look like warships that are riding along next to us, destroyers, and why are we being protected in a cordon like this? So that was the first indication that something was up. And we're not going to be living in America and having an ice cream anymore.
Yeah.
So then that's when you're plunged into the bombing. He said, and we're going to bring Wes on with his wife Shirley here, but they said, all day long by the Americans and bombing all night long by the RAF. So just endless, and teachers blown away. And where's this person and where's that person? And well, they must have died, just for years and years and years. Just terrible.
In a lot of ways, it's timely because of what we're seeing, unfortunately, in places like Ukraine, where people are enduring, living, not just hours but days and weeks inside, subways. Not sure if they're able to come outside, and even if they do, what they'll see when they come out. And that, I think, is not just a lesson of yesterday, but also a lesson of today.
Absolutely. So it's my pleasure then to bring on Wes Wesselhoeft and his wife Shirley. Welcome, guys, to the show today. You're here in the wonderful city nearby, the Presidential Center of Charlotte, North Carolina, and here for a joyous event of a wedding. Are we getting ready for the pre-wedding dinner?
Oh, yes. Tomorrow night is the rehearsal dinner.
Okay. And do we know what they're having or?
No, nobody's told us anything. I
But
think everything's a surprise.
it's a free
Except
meal, so we can't complain too much. Okay.
when to be there and where it is, where and when.
Well, this is a happier weekend versus bringing Wes all the way back to first grade. Wes, were you in first grade when you moved to Germany or to Texas?
That's right.
Wow. And then did you spend all the first grade in Texas in the internment camp with the barbed wire?
Yeah, well, I even in camp, I had some German instruction to kind of prepare me for, going to Germany.
Wow. Yeah. And I think I remember you telling me it took almost like a year or two to understand in school what they were saying and to be able to talk back and forth.
You really didn't learn German until you went to Germany.
Yeah. I really didn't learn real German till I got to Germany.
Yeah.
In the camp, I just, had introduction to German. And,
Unbelievable. Yeah. And had to be quite the shock.
yeah.
And Marty, he spent 3 years going to first grade. He went to first grade in Chicago. He went to first grade in the internment camp. And then when he got to Germany, they said, well, none of that matters to us. You're starting over here. So he started in first grade yet another time once he got to Germany. So he spent 3 years in first grade.
Wow. Yeah. What a time for any kid to have to go through. And Wes, do you remember about how many people that you lost in friends and family and church and the local streets where you lived? Did you stop counting the deaths from the bombings?
No, I didn't personally keep track of that. There must be a record of it somewhere, with what was going on, with the footage that was available, and of what was happening in Hamburg.
Yeah, and I think one of the most amazing things about your story and the book that was written, Wesselhoeft Traded to the Enemy, really is, the way we did this also to the Japanese and put them in internment camps. And I'm sure that several of them were traded if they could get away with it. But in your case, as a German American, and I know I'm part German, you were never formally apologized to by the United States.
That's correct.
Whereas the Japanese have received a formal apology for the way that they were treated.
Yes, and they received a monetary gift as well.
Yeah. And is that what you're after with your handout, to have cash put into it?
Well, not really. I want the truth to come out.
You're more interested in the truth than money. And I know your wife told me that. I know there's probably people out there saying he did not just ask him that way, but I know the answer to that already. Your wife told me we're not, at our age, we're not interested in getting a windfall of $100,000 for what they did to us and putting him into the camps. What we're interested in is having the truth come out with your book and receiving that apology. I think that's really what you guys are after.
Right.
The recognition by our government that Germans as well Germans and Italians as well were interned. It wasn't just the Japanese. I mean, we hear almost on a daily basis, oh my, I didn't know the Germans were interned. I knew the Japanese were, but people just don't know it. It's not taught in schools.
Yeah, why do you think that is? Why do you think that we hear all the time about the Japanese internment camps from World War II, but very rarely do we hear that the same thing was going on with German Americans?
Yeah, it's a it's a special time for the Americans, that to intern the Germans, just like they interned the Japanese.
He asked, why don't we why don't we know about that? Like why don't we know about the Germans like we did the Japanese? That's what he says.
Yeah, I really don't know the background on that either of why just the Japanese were covered to great detail, and the Germans not that much.
There
Uh,
there seems to
That's a
be
pretty good question. Why is that way? Because you couldn't say anything like, oh, because the one was vicious and the other one wasn't. They were both, just as aggressive, both engaged in horrible war crimes and killing people, which continues to come out. You know, I can't think of a Anthony. Is there some type of plausible reasoning? You deal with this every day in public relations. Why is the story so tilted? Not that you know why, but
Yeah, I
guessing.
mean, in a lot of ways, stories are history is written by the victor in all cases, and sometimes these stories just don't get the publication that they deserve. I'm of German heritage as well. Every time I go to Cologne, people are like, "Oh yeah, but your name Knopps very familiar," but yeah, it's fascinating to me as somebody who studies World War II that I knew of these camps, but to have somebody to be able to talk to somebody not face to face, but in essence face to face that had lived through that is just fascinating to me. And what I would like to know from you is this is something that is 80 years plus in our past. How important is it to know that story today so that it won't be repeated in this generation?
Now, that mainly is, the political situation of the people we have in power to be able to talk about situations like this, and inform the American people of what is going on when there's a war going on.
well, it's accuracy in telling the history of the World War of what happened in World War II. It's an accurate telling. If you only tell that we interned Japanese, you've only told part of that story. We interned people who were of all three belligerent countries, um, descended at least from all three belligerent countries, not
Yeah,
just the Japanese.
abs-
I don't
ab-
know why it's that one sided. The Italians are equally ignored. There weren't as many of them, but it doesn't matter. I mean, one murder is one too many.
maybe it is just lobbying, because you mentioned Italy, and I know I'm a member of the National Italian American Foundation, and we have a headquarters in Washington D.C., and they have long lobbied to be recognized for many of the Italians that won the Medal of Honor and Italian Americans that fought for the United States. And this is a huge legislative issue for a lot of our members. They are very pissed off about it still. If I was to be honest, to say it honestly, I'm sure there's nicer ways to say it. But Paul Brandis from the White House Press Pool, who writes for the Wall Street Journal and USA Today, just made a comment to Wes. I wonder if we could read that out loud. And he works in the White House. He's an official member of the press pool. He said, "God bless this man." So the word The word is getting out, Wes and Shirley. You've got a person who writes for the Wall Street Journal and USA Today and Dow Jones Marketplace, listening to your story and saying, God bless this man. So that is fantastic. Also from South Africa, I saw Pumza Dayani said, what an incredible story. And she thought that Wes was such a noble man. If anybody else wants to send in your comments of encouragement for Wes and what he's been through in his life, please do. I know it would be much appreciated. Wes, I wanted to ask you, let's move your story forward now, if you don't mind. Let's move forward. After World War II is over, you were in rubble. Most of Germany has been destroyed, if not, complete shambles. And I know that you shift into starvation at this point and trying to just survive. It becomes a great feat of survival. And my mother, who went through all this, my birth mother, they actually ran away from the Russians and out into the woods and were starving. Can you tell us, in regard to the Ukraine today, what it's like to be in Europe in rubble and foraging for food and water?
Harder.
Any?
Did you hear what he said? He didn't put his hearing aids in. Did you hear what he said? Talk about what it was like to not have food and what you guys did, what you went through to have food and necessities to live by.
Okay, we did a lot of trading. There was things we had. There was people that wanted what we had, and we were able to trade that way to keep food in our stomach. We were in a rural type area, which helped, because these were all farming communities in the area, and a lot of, I think, every vegetable and every fruit, like apples and pears and all those type of things, were grown and traded and shipped to Hamburg, mainly where people was where our main people were that used our products.
Well, also a lot of those trees were destroyed. I mean, it wasn't like you had the full orchards and everything like you had before the war, or had been there before the war, right?
That's right.
And there was one thing that bothers me when I hear him talk about it, is their book, their library became their paper. That if there was a blank sheet of paper and a book, they used that for paper because they didn't have any paper, and the book itself went to the outhouse. And it just, I love books, and to think that that's what happened to their library just is particularly sad to me.
Yeah, there was recently an image just sent to me yesterday from the Ukraine. They were complaining about the Russian army. They destroyed a whole elementary school. Then they took over a high school, and they took all the books and put them up in the windows. They said that's what books are good for at this point, is to block from bullets and stuff. And then they lit that whole school on fire, and they had to burn out buses and everything. And so is a stark image. Let's move forward even after World War II. You are 18, Wes, and you go to the embassy and you're talking with some of the Americans, and they say, listen, since you're an American citizen, you can actually go to America anytime you feel like. You don't need anyone's permission. And if you felt like flying into New York, like, you could walk around Times Square tonight. And that's exactly what you did. And when you got to Times Square, you went straight to the recruiter's office and joined the United States Air Force. And then you actually flew in the same bombers and in the same squadron that bombed you to death, and served your country for 22 years, all through Vietnam. What an amazing dichotomy. How did that feel to fly in the same squadron, and you knowing that maybe this is actually one of the planes that bombed me day and night?
Well, that's life, you know. You don't know what happens in history with people, you know, what they support and things they'll do that you wouldn't think they would do.
Well, they had to do that. But
And
that was the Mighty Eighth, by the way, that he was bombed by in Germany and served in Vietnam. It was the Mighty Eighth Air Force.
Yeah. And Wes, how did it then feel yourself to be the bomber, now doing the bombing of other people?
well, this is America was a free country, and they stood for freedom of its citizens, and they wanted the same thing for every other nation and other people. So it's really amazing, you know, that we actually supported the program to support people that were mistreated.
Yeah, and here in Grover, North Carolina, the headquarters of the Presidential Center, we actually have less than half a mile away a massive Laotian Buddhist temple. And these Laotians were given refuge from Vietnam to come and live here in America. So many people have often asked, why is there one of the biggest Buddhist temples in the Southeast in your town? And I tell them, well, this is why, because America is a loving country. And in the World War II era, we had maybe 160 million some citizens. Today, we're at about 360 million. This is not my grandfather's America. This is like everything we designed America to be, to invite people to come and live here, and for all of us from 205 countries to come together and try to see if we could get along and to really get the best out of everybody that we possibly can, the best ideas, you know, the best things to do, the best inventions. That's what America is. And yes, it is a stark picture today of what we knew when I was a little kid growing up. It is vastly different. I mean, when I was 6, I'm 56 now, you're talking about 50 years later, the population has about doubled. And yeah, people are coming from all over the world with all kinds of religions, customs, heritage, food. Um, you know, it is going to be quite different. So I think sometimes people don't understand how much our population has grown, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure it's
Yeah,
being taught in the schools as well, you know, of what is happening with the movement of the people.
sure, sure. And then, Wes, you went on to do tandem bicycle racing. Can you tell us about that? And
Well, when I got to America, one of the opportunities I had is to go to the Colorado to the bicycle racing area. You know, with a lot of Olympics are being taught and trained takes place. So being there, I took advantage of it, of being trained as a bicycle racer, which I never thought, you know, I would be able to do. But bicycle riding and racing in America is very popular, and it covers the whole country. You know, it's free. It's a free country. People engaged in free operations and activities and sports. Uh, that is,
He makes it sound like he did this when he was young. He actually was already, he had been to Vietnam, he'd lost his vision to Agent Orange, and he was actually riding tandem racing bikes as a blind cyclist, riding on the back of these bikes at the Olympic Center, at the Olympic Training Center, riding in the velodrome, racing in the velodrome, and also through the Garden of the Gods and the mountains and on streets. I mean, they raced everywhere on grass. They raced all over the place. And he was legally blind at the time. And he was in his late 70s.
yeah,
But
unbelievable.
but when we applied, they asked how many years he'd been riding a bike. And he said 60. And I was having to communicate this to the blind person who runs it. And she was having a hard time understanding, did I say 60? And she said, did you say 60? And I said, yes, 60. And she said, are you saying 60? And I said, yes, 60. And because most of the blind cyclists had been injured in the Middle Eastern War and were not nearly his age. So he was a grandpa in the group. He was in his late 70s when he did that.
Well, we're going to take a break. So if you guys want to grab a water out there in TV land, we have more questions that have come in. When we come back, I just want to briefly touch on Agent Orange and how that has affected Wes's life. We have been huge proponents here at the Presidential Center for legislation to be changed, which included, brown water Navy, blue water Navy, and a lot of that has happened. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go away. Thank you for joining us on the Presents Streaming Network.
Did you know that at least half of the world's population still does not have access to essential health services? One of the biggest problems in developing countries is the lack of medical monitoring devices. We have a solution. Kipuwex. Kipuwex is an easily attachable, lightweight IOMT device which continuously measures all the clinically relevant biomarkers vital to the assessment of your health. Kipuwex uses smart algorithms to provide efficiently reliable measurements for healthcare professionals. The biomarkers can be monitored remotely, anywhere and at any time, with a mobile and web application. Kipuwex is not limited by physical infrastructure and is suitable for professional use and in the future for home users as well. A simple user interface will let you choose which biomarkers you want to view and displays them on easy-to-read graphs. We here at Kipuwex want to combat healthcare inequality and help millions of people around the world.
for a powerful way to market your company or cause? Bentree Advocacy can help. Our team has experience creating high-impact marketing campaigns that resonate with your target audience. Contact us today at www.bentreeadvocacy.com to get started.
Priya Children's Academy provides a holistic education to the children. Total strength of 40 experienced teachers and 850 students. Our STEAM teaching methodology is adapted to meet our students' needs. Our science labs for physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics are well equipped to benefit our students in higher. Computer lab has with internet facility and a dedicated server. Conference hall. Our school's gallery-style conference hall is equipped with multimedia facility, herbal garden. We've 40 type of medicinal plants in our school's herbal garden. School has 3 buses and 2 vans to pick up and drop our students at specific locations. Extracurricular activity. We encourage innovation, engagement, and empathy among students. We're the beacon light in the ocean of knowledge.
Well, Anthony, an unbelievable story, enough to spike up Paul Brandis from the White House press pool. What did you think about the White House press dinner the other night?
It turns out that Trevor Noah might be right that it was the latest super spreader event, but no, seriously, I think it was nice to get everybody back together for the first time in quite a while, and as always, those dinners are equal opportunity offenders. They skew Republicans just as well as Democrats, that's for sure.
Yeah, and even with the super spreader event now, we have so many more therapies to cope with. Many people are vaccinated and have said, I got sick. My friend, one of our clients who's an advertiser, Rick Francis, we're praying for him out there today. He is sick with COVID. Prayers for you, Rick. Thank you for your sponsorship of these shows. But Rick has gotten his vaccination, and many people like Lindsey Graham have said, I actually was a lot less sick than I probably would have been since I got my vaccine.
And that's something I think we can we can be thankful for, because it is, while it's a horrific thing to get, it is not as bad as it could have been for many people. There's still people dying from this today. Yes. And that's unfortunate. Any life is one life too many to lose, but hopefully we're at a stage right now where we can start to control it a little bit more.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Anthony. Any life is one too many to lose. And I would like to re-enter on that note actually there, because Wes, we said when we came back, we were going to ask you about, your battle with what many people have battled from Vietnam, Agent Orange. And could you tell us about that battle and what you've been through?
Well, it was kind of a surprise to me, that I lost my vision, based on being exposed to this radiation. Agent Orange, that was prevalent in that war. And it not only affected me, it affected a lot of people.
Exactly. So many people. And a friend of mine, Dennis, he was a sailor, of course, close enough in Vietnam. And he was a Wichita lineman. He was on the USS Wichita. So he's recently entered the VA system to try and get some help. And I know you're battling with that also. Is there anything you'd like to get off your chest with your battle with the VA at this time, or anything that Shirley would like to chime in on? I know I've been helping you, in fact, to try and navigate this system.
Well, I'm very grateful that this is being aired and talked about. To let people know what really happens, in a war that makes a big personal impact or change in a person's life.
In the Houston VA at the welcome desk, it says the price of freedom is evident here, and I thought that was really quite a statement when we were down there at the Houston VA.
Yeah.
But Marty, we did finally get caregiver support.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yes, we did finally get it.
I'm like, if
And-
there is anybody that is a caregiver, it is Shirley Wesselhoeft. She takes care of Wes all the time. I mean,
I
my
do.
gosh,
I do.
everything- my
We're
wife
just
has
like
asked me,
this
"Do you
all
want me
the
to put
time."
your socks on?" I told her, "Get away from me." But I mean, Wes actually, as an American hero, he needs help, and God
He
bless us that
does.
you're there every day. I mean, I'm unafraid to say it. There's some stuff I could barely walk the past 2 days. Rainya's up here crying in the office, and I mean, yeah.
We did finally get it. We're in the midst of some paperwork regarding it,
Good.
but we did finally get approved, and they still told me that only 2% are getting approved for it, which I think is pretty deplorable, unless they're having people like many frivolous applications, which I kind of doubt.
Yeah, I mean, that's this whole thing. The reason they did this is so that
That's right.
people that could take care of. That's why this whole legislation was passed. And I am surprised again. You told me that last month that only 2% of people get approved. So that's 2%. Too little, because the cost they've already analyzed the cost. Trust me, they know that if we actually send the nurse in, the morning nurse and the afternoon nurse and an overnight nurse, that's 3 nurses in each veteran's homes. And we did all these wars. We actually don't have enough money in this country. We're broke. Okay. We can't afford it. So it's actually cheaper. It is cheaper. We will save money if we were to actually give a couple of dollars to the spouse who's there all day long. Will actually use the spouse. Okay. And pay them a couple of dollars to do all this work, whether it's whatever.
I'm with him all the time. I mean, I can't leave him. I just can't leave him alone. And so where I go, he goes. Where he goes, I go. They asked me, do I go to his doctor's appointments? Well, first of all, he can't get there without me because he's blind.
Of course.
He can't get there without somebody, because he's blind. But even if he had a cab, he couldn't find the doctor's office, and he's well, this Agent Orange has just wreaked havoc with him, really and truly. But anyway, I'm glad we finally got it. And if there's any way we can help somebody else get it, we'll be happy to do that, because, they passed it, our Congress passed it,
Yes.
that legislation for it to be there. And, there are probably other cases like ours. If Wes didn't have me, if he were single and he didn't have me, he'd be in a nursing.
Right. And look at him. He looks great. He's enjoying his life. He's having, as much quality of life as he can.
He is.
and he's still able to smile. And in Vietnam, we actually had created 6 people that were injured for every 1 that died. In World War II, we created 2 people that were injured and needed to be taken care of for life, whereas 1 died. So it's 1 death, 2 to take care of. When we went to Nam, it became 1 would die, 6. Today, when I tell people, listen, armchair general, rapping your fist on the table with your rage about we're going to invade, you're not going to invade anything. Today, it's 1 in 27. So you have 1 person die and you create 26 people that are either crippled or have their legs blown off. And we have girls coming home, young ladies with no legs, okay, in the Army. You create 26 people because you can't die anymore, okay? They will keep you alive. They have these triage centers with hospitals that set up in 5 minutes. they'll fly you to Landstuhl, and you may have lost both arms and both legs, but we can keep you alive, and you can actually live and enjoy some quality of life. And so, people don't understand the math behind warfare, and lifespans have, lengthened and expanded. So you're going to live longer. The cost of war and sending, young GIs into combat. We'll send them in there. I'll tell you, you're not going to send anybody in. You don't even actually have the money. This country's broke. Okay, we're broke, and we're like 30 trillion in debt. You don't have the money to match your mouth. Okay, and you've never been in the military. I often tell people you don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, so it is a shame, but I'm so happy to hear that you finally got your just due. And
Well, as you know, we had to work real hard at it, and we even enlisted the help of our Senator Kennedy, John Kennedy, and he was helpful. So we think. I mean, I know he made the effort. I don't know how the VA responded to his efforts, but I know he made the effort for us on our behalf, and we did finally get it. I think it's deserved. I don't think we got it because he got involved, particularly. It didn't get it undeserved because a senator got involved. In fact, it was the second time we applied, and we applied. We got 2 appeals. We went through those 2 appeals, and we were denied all of it. And so then we started over, and this time we got it. And
just an unbelievable odyssey for you guys.
Up until then, up until this issue, we have been incredibly pleased with the VA. I mean, they have so many assistive devices for blinded veterans. It's just, that's what we know, because that's been his primary problem that he's dealt with the VA. And they have so many assistive devices, computers, and, the phones that you can do all kinds of magic with, glasses, special glasses that will read to him, all sorts of things. Wow. I mean, they are like up to date on all of this kind of stuff. We've had no complaint with the VA until we hit this roadblock. And, so we have to say they've been 90% good to us, but this has been a real struggle, but we did find it.
And that has to be such a blessing right now to have that. And I know that your faith is something that's foundational in the book. Did you ever lose your faith? You went through so many things and so many opportunities for you to turn away. Did you ever reach those times where you wanted to turn away from your faith?
No, I never lost faith, and I figured was the American way, Have to keep at it.
He's asking about your faith in God.
That's right. Yeah.
I can tell you, even as he was losing his vision, I never saw him down one single time. Never, like, emotionally down. I've never seen him depressed. He has a little bit of vision in his left eye, so he can see, but he has no color. I mean, if I just lost my color vision, that would just, I would be so depressed about that, I think. But he's never been depressed, never, it's amazing. And he would just always say, I don't know what the Lord has in mind.
So what lesson do you think people hearing this or people reading your story can take from that? Because it seems like in a world in which we are living, we're losing sight of that a little bit.
Well, never lose faith. It's the main reason that things keep going. What you believe in and what will actually take place. And everything in my life so far has been more than what I expected.
Yeah, certainly
experience.
Yeah. Well, Wes and Shirley, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to sign off and say goodbye and let you guys get busy with a beautiful, celebratory, joyous wedding. And Anthony, as we say goodbye to them, I don't mind asking, would you like to wrap up just with a few comments and say goodbye to the viewers today?
Yeah, sure. I want to thank our guests primarily because without them we really don't have much of anything. And it's such a remarkable story, and I do encourage anyone to learn more about it, because when you just we just really scratched the surface here in the in the 40 minutes we were together. There is so much more to this story, and so much more to the stories of internment camps, not just for Japanese Americans but for German Americans. And we forget that was not the finest hour in our history, but hopefully we can learn from that, and hopefully we can be on guard that we don't take similar steps down those paths again.